The hype for the Heroes in a Half Shell is at an all-time high as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Mutant Mayhem is in theaters. Here is my ranking to all 7 TMNT theatrical release movies. Let's talk about it.
A moment to reflect.
Yeah! What's going on, everybody? It's yours, True to the Ace. And before I get started, join me down in the comment section. Let me know what your ranking is of all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. This is just my opinion, but I would love to hear yours. Let's begin. In last place, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time. This movie sucks. Coming off the hype of 1990 and Secret of the Ooze, they decide to make another movie inspired by the arcade game in 1991, Turtles in Time. But it's just all over the place and just doesn't work. They travel back in time to primitive Japan and battle British colonizers. From the beginning, it's just all over the place. They get separated. Michelangelo falls in love with a local. Raphael develops a relationship with a child. They're debating on if they want to leave or not. It's just, it's all over the place. The plot for this movie is horrible. Not to mention, speaking of horrible, the suits are atrocious. Jim Henson's team was no longer working on this movie, and it shows. The first and second ones were so groundbreaking, where Jim Henson's team did a phenomenal job in making the turtles look real and come to life. This one does not work. They look way too latexy. They have all of a sudden spots on them. They don't look realistic at all. That's one of the first things I noticed as a child. I'm just like, even as a kid, I can tell that this movie stunk. Plot, like I said, plot was all over the place. One of the worst things they did with this movie was how they handled Casey Jones. They brought back the actor from the first movie, who was great, phenomenal, by the way, but used him as a glorified babysitter and as like an ancestor from the past. So they put a bad wig on him and then a bad beard on him in the past, and it just doesn't work. You take an iconic character like that and you just ruin them. But overall, this movie sucked. It's unanimously known as throughout the Ninja Turtle community that this is by far the worst Ninja Turtle movie. Coming in at number 6, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. The second installment to the Michael Bay movies, Out of the Shadows. After rewatching the second time, I just think it's okay. 6 seems like a good spot for it. A lot of people like it. Me personally, I just think it's okay. First time watching it, didn't enjoy it at all. And second time, I'm more like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could see it's fun at times. The fight scenes are good at times. The plot, once again, is all over the place. But you can definitely tell Michael Bay took a conscious effort in giving us more of a true-to-form Ninja Turtle story, where he included a good collection of the Rogues Gallery from Baxter Stockman, Krang, Bebop and Rocksteady are at the forefront of this movie. And the only thing that sucks about it is Shredder is kind of in the background, very forgettable, and it's just an okay movie at the end of the day. Really bad CGI in this movie. The CGI was terrible. Big step down from the first TMNT 2014 Michael Bay movie. And one of the things I absolutely hated about this movie, even though I love this guy, is Stephen Amell as Casey Jones. Once again, they do not get it right. Coming off the hype of Arrow, right in Arrow's prime, Stephen Amell gets casted as Casey Jones. And originally I thought this was a good idea. And it was good to kind of see him in a different light, but it just doesn't work. He's kind of corny, comes off as a goofball. We only really got to see him in The Mask that one time, just because, like, if you're going to get big actors, which, at the time, because of Arrow, he was, his name was up there, you want to show their face more than anything else. So that's just your typical Hollywood stuff. But it's just overall, Out of the Shadows is just an okay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie to me. Coming in at number 5, TMNT 2014. When they first announced this movie, I'm not gonna lie, I was excited for this movie. It was so long since we got a live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. And if you know me, I'm also a big fan of the Michael Bay Transformers movies, at least 1, 2, and 3. So when I found out he was making this movie, I was excited. And of course, there was a little controversy around it. I remember at the time, they were saying Michael Bay was going to make them like aliens, and a lot of people immediately threw that away, but come to find out that wasn't the case. But overall, I think this movie is solid. It's very flawed, but it's fun at the same time too. The fight sequences are good. there's a lot of problems with this movie, but I do feel like it's very rewatchable. Because it's Michael Bay, and Michael Bay tends to go for the spectacle over everything. That's what this movie is. It's a huge, and when I say huge, I am talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Over 6 foot tall Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So because they're so tall, you have to scale up everything. Shredder is like a big mechanized robot with blades. They deviate from the origin story by making them April O'Neil's pets, which is kind of like, I'm not a big fan of that. But, it could have been a lot worse. But it's just overall, like I said, I enjoy this movie when I go back and rewatch it. Do they look terrible? Yes, they look terrible. But I do like the accessories that they have, that they incorporate in each turtle that matches their personality. Like Michelangelo with like the shells around his neck, the skateboard. Raphael has like the sunglasses, the bandana instead of just the mask. Donatello has like the goggles and stuff like that. Leonardo even has like a protective thing over his chest, and I think it works. Like, does the CGI look bad? Yes. The fight scenes are solid. But overall, it's like this movie is it's very flawed, but it's fun, and I feel like it's good rewatching it. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of problems with this movie. It's a lot of contradictions, obviously. They make them bulletproof in one scene, but then the next scene, they're injected with tranq darts. So it's like, it's very contradicting. Typical Michael Bay type movie where it's just all flash, not really worried about the plot. Would have liked for it to be a little bit more to the Ninja Turtles that we know and love, but he did that more in the second movie. But I feel like it's okay. Like, I'm not going to nitpick. I genuinely do have fun whenever I do rewatch this movie. And like I said, I think it's solid. Coming in at number 4, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. If you've seen my Mutant Mayhem review, you know that I love this movie. It's a fun, fresh, coming-of-age story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that we all know and love. It appeals to everybody. The older fans like myself with the nostalgia, and the new generation with the references, and it's a great, fun time in the theater. Like I said, I tell everybody, make sure you go check it out. Not gonna lie, like I said, I was nervous going in because Seth Rogen was a main producer. I was worried that this was going to be a stoner flick of the Turtles, but boy was I wrong. I had a great time, had a blast in the theater. Everybody that I've talked to about this movie loves this movie. It's just such a good time overall. Great character development. They finally gave my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle a great arc. If you don't know, my favorite Ninja Turtle is Leonardo. And in this movie, I feel like we truly get one of the best arcs from the character of Leonardo. We see him really have to earn the trust and respect from his brothers to be able to be the leader that we know that he can be. And it's just great character development. You also get great character development from April. You get great character development from Splinter as well. The dynamic, the father-son dynamic works in this movie where it shows you a lot of heart when you're not expecting it. Of Splinter really realizing he's overprotective, and by the end of this movie, he realizes it's okay for the boys to go out and the city will accept them. And it just makes for a great story overall. On top of that, the animation, took me by surprise. I saw a couple early trailers, wasn't sold on it, but seeing it on the big screen, it really translated well to the big screen. And it was just such a good time to see this fresh take on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was absolutely blown away with how good this movie is. A great cast. Specifically, the 4 boys that they brought in to voice Ninja Turtles. Like I said, teenagers playing the role of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles absolutely works, and the 4 boys were phenomenal. Their banter, you can hear the chemistry within their voice. They really sounded like brothers, and it's one of the best parts about this movie. Mutant Mayhem is such an appropriate title as well because mutants galore. Long list of rogues from the lore are in this movie, and it was just good to see them on screen again. And I cannot wait to see what they do going forward. Now, I didn't get a chance to really talk about the after credit scene in the spoiler-free review, but they showed Shredder, and Everybody gasped at that. It was just so perfectly executed with how they did it. And I can't wait to see, like I said, what they are doing with this franchise going forward. Now, they said there's gonna be another movie, and it's also gonna be a television series with this franchise. And I am super excited to see what direction they take this. Now, before I give you my top 3, a couple days ago on my community tab, I put out a poll asking you guys which one of the TMNT movies you thought was going to be my number 1. 67% of you thought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990 is going to be my number 1. Let's see. Coming in at number 3, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990. It's like you guys don't even know me at all. Just kidding, guys. Now, this is going to be a controversial one. A lot of people are going to have this as their number 1, but this is just my list, my opinion. I'd love to hear yours if you let me know down in the comment section. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990. Let me preface this by saying I was 2 years old when this movie dropped, so I didn't get to see it in theaters. When I was a lot older and started understanding stuff like this, I got to watch it, and I absolutely loved it and fell in love with the Ninja Turtles and have been a big fan of them ever since. This movie is the perfect embodiment of the series, which is lighthearted and fun, and the comic books, which is dark and edgy. But Ace, if it's the perfect embodiment, why isn't it number 1? I just like the other ones better. But this movie is such a groundbreaking movie. Jim Henson brought these turtles to life right in front of our very eyes. I absolutely love the practical effects in this movie and the choreography. Shout out to Jim Henson and his workshop and his crew for making these turtles feel as real as possible. That's something that Hollywood is desperately lacking nowadays, is that semblance of realism, because CGI just can't capture it the way practical effects were. And they feel like real live, talking, fighting turtles brought to life. And it's just phenomenal what they were able to accomplish at the time. Definitely state of the art, and hats off to them as far as that. I love the storyline to this movie. This movie's very rewatchable, very quotable.
Wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
I just love how this movie's able to capture the lightheartedness of the series with the jokes and their love for pizza, but where it really takes off is the dark edginess from the comic books. That's where it becomes very relatable. Like when the turtles lose Splinter, and we get to see each turtle deal with grief in their own way. Whether it's Donatello latching on to Casey Jones, which, by the way, the best adaptation of Casey Jones in any medium. Also, we see Leonardo, how he acts when Raphael's injured, staying by his side, and then when he comes to, you see the joy and Leonardo, and it just builds the bond with these characters and makes them way more relatable. And it was just such a great story. Shredder, phenomenal, badass. Didn't really get to see him go in until the end, but you really did feel like he was a threat. And as a child, you feel that. And this movie was just so good in capturing all the elements of the Turtles, and I wish I would have saw this in theaters. At runner-up, we have TMNT 2007. This movie is actually one of my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. I love this movie, and I think it's very underrated. This was the first Ninja Turtle movie that I actually got to see in theaters 15 years after Ninja Turtles 3 came out. So once they said they were making this, I couldn't wait to see it. Went and saw it a couple times in theaters. I constantly rewatched it as an adult. It works for me. Now, for some people, it doesn't. Like, I understand the plot is kind of a little bit weird, not your traditional Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle plot where the stone artifacts that come to life bring in monsters. The turtles have to take them on with the help of the Foot Clan at the end. And, you know, I understand it doesn't really work for everybody, but for me, it actually does do a good job at telling a different kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle story. But where this movie wins me over, I like the animation style. I think it works for this movie, and I think it translated well to the big screen as well. I actually like Mutant Mayhem animation a little bit more, but like I said, this one was still solid. Also, it's a very mature Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle take. It tells a story of the Ninja Turtles trying to find themselves as individuals, but still staying true to their original characters. You got Leonardo, who's off trying to become a better leader. Raphael, who's very angry, Decides to become a vigilante and a night watcher. Michelangelo, the party dude, knows nothing better than to have a good time. So what does he do? Become a child's entertainer that just happens to be a giant turtle. Think that's hilarious. Donatello stays in tech support, you know what I'm saying? And I think it bodes well for who they are as a character at telling a very mature story, and it brings them together better as a team. My favorite part about this movie is this is the best rivalry we see between Leonardo and Raphael.
And whoever said I wanted to be led? I'm better off calling my own shots now. Get used to it.
You aren't ready. You're impatient and hot-tempered, and more importantly, I'm better than you.
Obviously, Leonardo let him win, but within that happening, you see the realization within Raphael where earlier in the movie, Splinter was saying how Leonardo's absence was really taking a toll on Raphael, and you see how they tend to bump heads and the animosities there, but it's resolved on that rooftop fight where Leonardo, lets him win, and Raphael runs away. Leonardo gets captured, and he realizes the mistakes in his ways, and it just makes for great character building and for them to really come together by the end of this movie. Before we get into number one, here is my honorable mention. Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This movie is a crossover that brings together elements of Batman and elements of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They make it make sense by bringing in both rogue galleries and having them team up. And it's just a fun time to watch them fight side by side to stop these villains. But coming in at number one, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Secret of the Ooze. This movie is easily my most watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, and it's not even close. I have a fun time watching this every time it comes on. It's fun, funny, memorable, very quotable, good action sequences. The choreography is really well done. It's just a fun time. They had to tone it down because of parents that were complaining about the 1990 being violent. So what do? They ramp up the fun.
Combat Coconuts!
For me, this is what I want out of these movies. I want to have a good, fun time and enjoy watching them. This movie is one of my favorites. The plot is easily digestible, pretty straightforward, while keeping it fun at the same time. We take a more deep dive into the backstory of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by introducing TCRI and how it goes forward with the plot, where Shredder gets the Ooze, creates Tokar and Razor. We get to see them in this movie. They were great as well. Good to see them on the big screen. And it sums it all up with an iconic club fight scene at the end with a legendary song by Vanilla Ice. Not used to saying legendary and Vanilla Ice in the same sentence, but this is a well-known song throughout Ninja Turtle lore. The Ninja Rap is born. Such a great scene that caps it off with Super Shredder. The heroes prevail at the end, and this is just one of those movies that resonate with you for the rest of your life. And every time I watch it, I have such a great time. And that's why it goes down as my number one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie.
You like what you saw? Then give it up for a turtle!
If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please check out my Mutant Mayhem spoiler-free review right here on the page. Appreciate you for watching. As always, thank you for tuning into the Ace Avenue. I am yours truly, the Ace. Adios.